All right, it's time for part 2 of Waxing It with Wade, my miscellaneous 45 singles, and from my collection that I started in the previous episode. This will be episode number 15. I'll pick it up in 1975 and work my way up to 1983 with this one. First let me say I hope you like my new shirt my wife Pam gave me for Christmas. It's not hoarding if it's vinyl. I love this shirt, and of course, since I'm doing 45s, they are still vinyl. They're not albums, but they are vinyl. So here we go. 1975 classic Rhiannon from Fleetwood Mac's self-titled album that was the debut album for Fleetwood Mac that included Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, as referenced in my Buckingham Nicks episode 4, I believe that was. Okay. Then we have, from 1976, one of my first rock singles I ever bought. Also from 1975. Paul Simon's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. I actually bought this single when I was listening to top 10 pop records and before I really got into rock. One of my first rock singles that I loved, More Than a Feeling, from the debut Boston album, which could be featured on a future episode of Waxing with Wade, possibly. That's a classic tune, as everyone's familiar with. Here's a weird one from 1977 from the Rumors album. This is a Japanese imported single of Go Your Own Way. The reason I have this, though, is there's a song on the flip side, and you can see it through the cover there, called Silver Springs. It's a great song by Fleetwood Mac that was not released on an album at that time. It was only available as the flip side of Go Your Own Way. And that's the reason I had this, for actually wanting to play it and hear that song. Here we go. Styx, Fooling Yourself from 1977. From the Grand Illusion, which, little trivia about that album, that was the 7th Styx album, and they released it on 7/7/1977, July 7th. Here we go. Oh, this one makes me sad. This is weeks before the plane crash that took Ronnie Van Zant and Steve Gaines' lives, and a couple of their other bandmates and part of their tour. This is Leonard Skinner's I Know a Little that's the flip side. This is What's Your Name, the big hit from Street Survivors. I may feature that album on a future record if I can keep it together, because it makes me so sad what happened with them and that album. 2 Styx singles, I'll show them both to you. Sing for the Day and bigger hit Blue Collar Man, both from Pieces of 8. I love Blue Collar Man, maybe my favorite Styx song. It's one of them anyway. Alice Cooper, How You Gonna See Me Now, one of his beautiful ballads that was a hit from 1978's what was the name of that album? Doesn't say it on here, but it's escaping me now. From the Inside, excuse me. But I wanted to mention that he collaborated on that album with Bernie Taupin, the famous lyricist for Elton John, co-wrote the lyrics on that album with Elton John, and he borrowed Elton John's band. Most of them, Davy Johnstone and Nigel Olsson and others played on that. Dee Murray, I think they may have all played on that album with Alice Cooper. Here's a novelty single, Steve Martin from 1978, King Tut. He did this on Saturday Night Live. He performed it, I believe, and released this single with his band, the Toot Uncommons. This one I just wanted to show because it's so kitschy. This is a terrible song, but this was one of my heartthrobs. She was on Charlie's Angels, and this is from 1978 as well. Cheryl Ladd, not a great song. I've got a lot from 1978. Here's a famous song, Joe Walsh, Life's Been Good. One of my favorite old hits by Joe Walsh, which actually came out after Hotel California. He still was putting out solo records, and that was a hit. I don't know if you realize the timing of that. It was after Hotel California that Life's Been Good's a hit. I'm noticing that the back of this single is blank. I do not know if that's a misprint. I'm gonna have to play the back of that and see what it is, actually. Here we go, another one of my top songs of all time, Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing from 1978. I did feature that on Waxing with Wade. I don't remember the number of the episode. Here's a great Kenny Loggins hit, and the reason I have it, Whenever I Call You Friend by Kenny Loggins is because Stevie Nicks was featured on that song and sang a duet with him on it, or maybe background vocals, or some of both. Haven't heard it in a long time. Also from 78, Double Vision by Foreigner. Love that song. One of my favorite Foreigner songs is Double Vision, at least as far as their hits go. Another Boston single, Feeling Satisfied. It's the same on both sides, Feeling Satisfied, because it was a demo, not for sale, like from a radio station. That's from their album, Don't Look Back. Here we go, Doobie Brothers, What a Fool Believes, from their Grammy-winning 1978 album, Minute by Minute. Actually, I always thought that was 79, but it's 78. It came out in December. Here's an old Kansas single on Don Kirshner Records, Reason to Be, from Monolith in 1979. Here's Tusk by Fleetwood Mac, one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs, and very unique song. I love to crank that as loud as I can play it with those drums when I listen to Tusk. Here's Tom Petty, A Woman in Love, from 1981, I believe this is. And let me go back a year. I skipped this one because it's loose. Here's the Blues Brothers, Jailhouse Rock, from the film The Blues Brothers. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Actually, Joe Walsh has a cameo as one of the prisoners in the scene where they played Jailhouse Rock. And I just mentioned Joe Walsh. That's kind of a coincidence. This is a cool one. Now, you may not all be familiar with John Prine, but those of you that know me, many of you know I'm a huge John Prine fan, and I sang some of his songs to my kids when they were little, and they love him. And this is his I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus single. Here we go with Kim Carnes, Betty Davis Eyes from 1981. That's a song that was huge at the time, and those of you about my age would remember that from the high school / college days. I'm almost done here. Fleetwood Mac, from their Fleetwood Mac Live album in 81, I believe that was. And here's Don Felder from the Eagles, had this fabulous song that he contributed. He wrote and sang it on, called Heavy Metal, Taking a Ride, from the animated film Heavy Metal in 1981. And then this is also from 81, George Harrison. All those years ago, not one of his biggest hits, but love George, love all the Beatles. And I know you'll know this song, Eye of the Tiger by Survivor. Still played a lot. And last but not least, from Robert Plant's early solo album, Big Log. This was from his second solo album, The Principle of Moments, in 1983. Well, that's going to wrap it up. I don't know if I took a longer than I anticipated on this one or not, but let me just quickly mention that probably this is going to be my next episode, this classic. I had to get it back from my daughter, Maddie. She loves this album. She's a Dylan fan. Blood on the Tracks. This is one of those critics' faves and fan faves, and it's my favorite Bob Dylan album. We'll talk more about that on episode 16 of Waxing with Wade, which will be my next one. And thank you for tuning in. We'll be back soon.